Motion in your step.
Motivation in your heart.
Hello, and welcome to today's Motion and Motivation podcast.
We've put together a study guide for everyone. If you need it, you can grab it from the video description. Welcome to this deep dive. We're going deep into the 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss.
Ooh, a classic.
Right, a classic for a reason. It's about freedom.
And fulfillment.
You got it. Living the dream life now, not later, right?
Yeah, like, why wait,
Exactly. And one of the first things that really stood out to me was this whole concept of the new rich. Like, what does that even mean?
It's funny, right? Because you think, oh, new rich, just another way to say rich.
Yeah.
But it's so much more than that.
Yeah, it's not just about the money. It's a whole mindset, a whole way of living. And Ferriss really contrasts this with the defers.
Right, the defers. Work, work, work now, and then maybe someday when you're 65, you can finally enjoy life.
Yeah, the classic delayed gratification trap.
Okay.
But the new rich, they're like, no, I want to live well now. I want to travel, pursue my passions, have freedom.
And he uses that great example of Dale Begg-Smith, the Olympic skier.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
World-class athlete, and also runs a super successful business.
Yeah.
Didn't wait till he was done skiing to start living,
It's like, why not have both? Why not design a life where you don't have to choose? And Ferriss breaks down this new rich philosophy into 3 key principles.
Deal-making, automation, and liberation.
Okay, so let's unpack those. Starting with deal-making. What's he getting at there?
So it's not just about business deals, though that's definitely part of it. It's more like a way of approaching life. Being proactive, strategic, negotiating for what you want, finding creative solutions.
Like being a savvy operator, I guess.
Exactly. Thinking outside the box, challenging those default settings,
I love that. And then automation. This is where technology comes in, right?
Big time. It's about leveraging tech and systems to free up your time and energy. Because we all have the same 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
But it's what you do with them that matters.
And for Ferriss, it's about eliminating those tasks that can be done by someone or something else, so you can focus on what truly matters to you.
Right. And finally, there's liberation, which is kind of the ultimate goal, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's about breaking free from that traditional 9-to-5 grind.
Escaping the office, being location independent, having the freedom to design your own schedule.
It's about designing a life where work doesn't feel like work. It feels like, well, living.
Exactly. And underpinning all of this is this idea that less is not laziness.
Ooh, that's good. I think a lot of us struggle with that, right?
Oh, for sure. We're so conditioned to believe that being busy equals being productive.
And Ferriss is like, nope. It's about doing less but better. Being ruthlessly selective with your time and energy, saying no to things that don't align with your goals and values.
It's about eliminating what he calls distress, those things that drain you, and seeking out eustress, those challenges that actually energize you and help you grow.
I like that distinction. And he talks a lot about overcoming fear, right? Because fear can be a major roadblock to actually designing the life you want.
Yeah, fear can be paralyzing. But Ferriss has this really interesting approach called fear setting.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So it's not about ignoring your fears, it's about facing them head on. He even encourages you to write down your worst case scenarios, to actually confront those what ifs that keep you up at night.
That sounds scary. But I guess the idea is that once you actually define those fears, they lose some of their power over you.
Exactly. He even encourages us to calculate the cost of inaction. Like, what's it costing you financially and emotionally to stay stuck in a job or a situation that isn't serving you?
Because often the cost of inaction is actually much greater than the potential risks of taking action.
Exactly. He even suggests setting what he calls unrealistic goals.
Unrealistic. How can that be helpful?
Because they create momentum, they get you excited, they push you outside your comfort zone, and he has this thing called the comfort challenge.
Okay, what's that?
It's super simple but super effective. Do one thing every day that scares you.
Like, what? Give me an example.
It could be anything. Like maybe you're afraid of public speaking. So start by just talking to a small group of friends. Or maybe you're afraid of networking. So reach out to someone on LinkedIn who you admire.
It's about pushing those boundaries little by little, proving to yourself that you're more capable than you think.
Exactly. And this whole idea of facing your fears, it really ties into his approach to time management and productivity, which is really counterintuitive.
Yeah, how so? Because he's not about squeezing more work into the same amount of time, is he?
Nope. He's about doing less work altogether. It's about working smarter, not harder. And that's where Parkinson's law comes in.
Ah, yes. Work expands to fill the time allotted. So true.
He uses this funny anecdote about a college student who wrote an A-plus paper in one night because, well, that's all the time he had. And it makes you realize that we often create our own busyness.
Yeah.
We give ourselves these arbitrary deadlines, and then we scramble to meet them.
And we end up feeling stressed and overwhelmed. But if we were more intentional with our time and energy, if we focused on what truly matters, we could probably accomplish the same amount in a fraction of the time.
Exactly. He gives this example of a guy named Charney who actually reduced his work week to 18 hours.
18 hours, that's amazing. And he was still getting everything done.
More than that, he was actually more productive.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because he was laser focused on the essential tasks. He eliminated all the busy work, all the distractions, and he got really clear on what he needed to accomplish.
Okay, so it's not about working less per se. It's about being more strategic with your time and energy. It's about working smarter, not harder. And that brings us to the low information diet. Now, I have to admit, when I first heard about this, I was a bit skeptical. Like, how can you possibly stay informed if you're not constantly consuming news?
Right, it sounds crazy at first. But Ferriss makes a really interesting point. He says that a lot of the information we consume, it's not actually actionable. It doesn't help us make better decisions. It just creates anxiety and distracts us from what's important.
So he's not advocating for ignorance. He's advocating for being more selective with your information intake, being more mindful of where you're getting your news and how it's impacting your mental state.
Exactly. And he talks about how he gets most of his news from conversations with friends, waiters, bartenders, people he encounters in his daily life. He's not completely disconnected from the world. He's just choosing to get his information from sources that are more relevant and less overwhelming.
That's a really interesting perspective. And now, for something completely different, let's talk about automation and outsourcing. I mean, he tells this wild story of A.J. Jacobs, who outsourced practically his entire life to assistants in India.
Oh yeah, that's a classic Ferriss story. And it's definitely on the extreme end of the spectrum. But the point is, you don't have to go that far to benefit from outsourcing.
Right, you don't have to outsource your entire life. But strategically outsourcing certain tasks can free up a ton of time and energy.
Exactly. And Ferriss lays out two golden rules for outsourcing.
Okay, what are they?
First, the task has to be time-consuming, like something that's taking up a significant chunk of your time that you'd rather be spending on something else. And second, it has to be well-defined. You need to be able to clearly articulate what needs to be done and how you want it done.
Makes sense. Because if you're not clear about what you want, you're going to end up wasting more time trying to manage the outsourcing process than you would have just doing the task yourself.
Exactly. And Ferriss doesn't sugarcoat it. He talks about his own outsourcing mishaps. Like that time his assistant took 23 hours to book a simple interview.
Oh, wow. So it's not always a smooth process.
Nope. But the key is to learn from those mistakes, to refine your systems, and to get really clear on what you need from your virtual assistants.
And it's about investing the time up front to find the right people and to train them properly. Because once you have a good system in place, it can be a game changer.
Absolutely. It can free you up to focus on your strengths, to pursue your passions, to actually design the life you want. And that leads us to one of the core concepts of the book, building an income autopilot.
Ah, yes. The dream, right. A business that basically runs itself and generates income while you're off living your best life.
Exactly. Ferriss uses this great example of a guy named Doug who created this website called prosoundeffects.com, selling sound libraries that he didn't even own.
Wait, what? He was selling something he didn't own? How did that even work?
It's a brilliant example of leverage. He basically found a market with existing demand, curated a collection of high-quality sound effects from various sources, and then created a platform to sell them.
So he didn't have to create the products himself. He just had to create the system to sell them. That's genius. And this whole idea of the income autopilot, it's really about creating a business that generates passive income, right? Like money that comes in even when you're not actively working.
Exactly. And Ferriss emphasizes that the best muses, as he calls them, are businesses that are scalable, meaning you can grow them without having to put in proportionally more time and effort.
So it's not about trading hours for dollars. It's about creating a system that works for you even when you're not working.
Exactly. It's about creating freedom and flexibility in your life so you can pursue those things that truly light you up. And it's not just about making money. It's about creating a business that you actually enjoy, that aligns with your passions and values.
Right, because what's the point of having all this freedom and flexibility if you're miserable doing what you're doing?
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot where your work feels like play.
And Ferris provides a lot of practical advice on how to actually create these muses. Like he talks about choosing a niche market, focusing on products that are difficult to copy, using micro-testing to validate your ideas.
He's all about data-driven decision-making. Don't just go with your gut, test it out.
I love that. It's a very entrepreneurial mindset. And he talks about those tools like Google AdWords and eBay.
Yeah, those are your friends. They can help you reach your target market, test your products, build your business without breaking the bank.
It's amazing how much you can do with technology these days. It's really leveled the playing field for entrepreneurs. And once you have that income autopilot humming along, it's time for the next stage, liberation.
Yes, time to break free from the shackles of the traditional office. Ferris even shares that story of Dave Camarillo, who took a month-long trip to China without telling his boss.
Whoa, that's bold. Did he get fired?
Nope, he came back and everything was fine. It's a great example of how you can demonstrate your ability to work remotely before even asking for permission.
It's like that saying, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission, but in a work context.
Exactly. And Ferris offers some really practical tips on how to negotiate those remote work arrangements. Like, start by demonstrating increased productivity while working remotely before you even bring it up.
So you're basically proving the concept before you even ask.
Exactly. And when you do have that conversation with your boss, frame it as a win-win for both of you. Emphasize how working remotely allows you to be more focused, more productive, more available.
And then there's this radical concept of mini retirements, which I have to admit, when I first heard about it, I was like, that sounds amazing, but I could never afford that.
I know, right? Sounds like something only rich people can do. But Ferris argues that mini retirements are more accessible than we think.
How so?
Well, for one thing, living expenses abroad can be surprisingly low. He shares examples of his own monthly expenses in places like Argentina and Berlin, showing that it's possible to live comfortably on a modest budget.
So it's about being strategic with your location and your spending.
Exactly. And remember, this isn't about living like a backpacker. You can still enjoy a high quality of life, just in a different setting and for a fraction of the cost. And Ferris also addresses those common concerns, like safety and traveling with children.
Because those are real considerations, especially if you're planning to be gone for an extended period of time.
Absolutely. And he offers practical tips and resources to help you navigate those challenges. He breaks down the whole process of planning and executing a mini retirement, from choosing a location, to preparing for departure, to managing your affairs while you're away.
It can feel overwhelming, but he lays it all out in a very systematic way.
He's all about systems and processes. And one of the biggest challenges people face when they shift to this more unconventional lifestyle is that fear of the unknown, that sense of, what am I going to do with all this free time?
Right. It's almost like we're so programmed to work that we don't know what to do with ourselves when we're not working.
Exactly. And Ferris anticipates this. He emphasizes the importance of finding fulfilling activities outside of work, of identifying those things that give you a sense of purpose and meaning.
And he doesn't just say, go find your passion. He actually provides a set of questions to help you uncover those things that truly light you up.
Yeah, he asks things like, what makes you angry about the world? Or what are you most proud of accomplishing?
Those are really powerful questions. They force you to think beyond your day-to-day routine and to really examine what matters to you.
It's about getting to the core of who you are and what truly drives you.
And sometimes that involves experimenting, trying new things, even embracing a bit of uncertainty.
It's all part of the journey.
Yeah.
And Ferris also dives into these really interesting commandments for the new rich, like ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Ooh, I like that one. It's about taking initiative, not letting the fear of failure hold you back.
Exactly. And it ties into another commandment. Emphasize strengths, don't fix weaknesses. This one's a bit counterintuitive, right?
Because we're so conditioned to focus on our weaknesses, to try to improve those areas where we're not as strong.
Right. But Ferris argues it's actually more effective to focus on what we excel at and to delegate or outsource those tasks that drain our energy or time.
It's about playing to your strengths and building a team or system that supports you in those areas where you're not as strong.
Exactly. And in our fast-paced world, his commandment to learn to slow down might seem almost radical.
That's a tough one. We're so used to equating busyness with productivity. But as Ferris points out, constantly being busy doesn't necessarily mean you're being effective.
It's about being intentional with your time and energy and focusing on those activities that truly move the needle.
It's about creating space for reflection, for deep work, for those activities that nourish your soul and fuel your creativity.
He also distinguishes between relative income and absolute income.
Now, that's a concept that can really change your perspective on wealth and work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You could have a high absolute income, meaning you earn a lot of money, but if you're working long hours and sacrificing your free time, your relative income, meaning how much you earn per hour of your life, might be quite low.
And that's a really important distinction to make because ultimately it's not just about how much money you make, it's about how you're spending your time.
Exactly. And Ferris emphasizes that having more free time and flexibility can be just as valuable, if not more so, than a higher salary.
I remember doing that calculation and being shocked at how low my real hourly wage
It's
was.
eye-opening, isn't it? It really makes you reconsider what you're truly trading your time for.
And this leads us to the whole concept of lifestyle design, which is essentially the process of designing your life to achieve your ideal outcomes.
It's about being proactive and intentional in shaping your life, rather than just reacting to circumstances or letting external forces dictate your path.
Ferris breaks it down into a series of actionable steps, starting with defining your ideal lifestyle.
What does your dream life actually look like? Get really specific. Envision your dream day, your dream week, even your dream year.
And from there, you identify your dream lines, which are essentially those goals that will move you towards that ideal lifestyle.
It's all about having a clear vision for where you want to go and then creating a roadmap to get there.
And this isn't just about leisure and luxury, it's about aligning your life with your values and passions. It's about designing a life that's both fulfilling and sustainable.
Of course, Ferris acknowledges that implementing this unconventional lifestyle isn't always easy. There will be obstacles, there will be challenges.
And like fear, doubt, maybe even resistance from the people around you.
Exactly. But he provides strategies for navigating those challenges.
Yeah.
He reminds us that fear is often based on imagined scenarios that rarely come to pass.
He also emphasizes the importance of surrounding yourself with people who support your vision and having those difficult conversations with the people who don't.
And he even offers some pretty clever tactics for dealing with difficult bosses or coworkers, emphasizing diplomacy, strategy, persuasion.
It's about understanding their perspective and finding ways to frame your requests in a way that benefits everyone.
One of the things I really appreciate about the 4-hour work week is the abundance of resources that Ferris provides.
Yeah.
He doesn't just leave you with these abstract ideas. He gives you concrete tools and examples to put those ideas into action.
Yeah, he shares specific websites, software programs, books, all sorts of resources that can help you automate your business, manage your time, design your ideal lifestyle.
And he emphasizes the importance of testing, experimenting, iterating.
It's not about finding the perfect solution right away. It's about viewing your journey as an ongoing experiment.
Exactly.
No.
It's about embracing that mindset of continuous learning and adaptation. And, one of the most common misconceptions about the book is that it's all about becoming this lazy beach bum who avoids work altogether.
Right, like it's just a guide to slacking off and doing nothing.
But that couldn't be further from the truth. Ferris is very clear that it's not about shirking responsibility or becoming a workaholic. It's about designing a life where work is both meaningful and enjoyable.
It's about pursuing your passions, finding your unique contribution to the world, creating a career that supports the lifestyle you desire.
And this lifestyle definitely requires discipline, focus, a strong work ethic, especially in those initial stages. It's about working smarter, not necessarily less.
And while the 4-hour workweek has had a huge cultural impact, inspiring tons of people to reevaluate their priorities and embrace a more unconventional lifestyle.
It sparked a whole movement of entrepreneurs, remote workers, digital nomads.
Absolutely. But it's important to remember that this lifestyle isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. Not everyone's going to want to fully embrace the 4-hour workweek philosophy.
And that's totally fine. The point is that you have choices. You don't have to settle for that default path. You can design a life that's tailored to your own values and aspirations.
Even if you just implement a few of the principles, like setting better boundaries, automating some of your tasks, or creating more space for those activities that bring you joy, that can have a huge impact on your overall well-being.
Absolutely. Small changes can make a big difference. Now, of course, there are those who criticize Ferris's approach, arguing that his methods are unrealistic, unsustainable, maybe even unethical.
Right, there are always going to be naysayers.
And Ferris doesn't shy away from addressing those criticisms. He emphasizes that this isn't some get-rich-quick scheme. It's a long-term strategy that requires effort, discipline, and a willingness to step outside your comfort zone.
And he's very clear that this approach isn't for everyone.
But for those who are willing to put in the work, to challenge their assumptions, to experiment and adapt, it can be incredibly rewarding.
I think what makes Ferris's work so compelling is his transparency. He doesn't pretend to have all the answers. He openly shares his own struggles and failures, demonstrating that success isn't a linear path.
It's all about being willing to experiment, to fail, and to learn from those experiences. It's about embracing the journey with all its ups and downs and constantly adapting and evolving. And while the 4-Hour Workweek was first published way back in 2007,
It feels like a lifetime ago. The world has changed so much since then.
it has. But the core principles of the book remain remarkably relevant. That desire for freedom, flexibility, and meaningful work is universal.
And the tools and technologies available to us today make it even easier to implement Ferris's strategies.
We have access to online business platforms, virtual assistants, a wealth of information that can empower us to create the lifestyles we desire.
So while the specific tactics might need to be adapted, the underlying philosophy is as powerful as ever.
It's about taking control of your life, designing a future that aligns with your deepest values.
It really is about taking ownership of your life and your future. And the 4-Hour Workweek encourages a powerful mindset shift. From scarcity to abundance, it challenges that ingrained belief that we have to work tirelessly to achieve success, and instead suggests that we can design a life where work and fulfillment actually go hand in hand.
It's about questioning that whole idea that we have to sacrifice our present happiness for some future reward.
Yeah.
Like retirement Ferris. Ferris argues that we can have both now.
Wow.
We can design a life where we're engaged in meaningful work, pursuing our passions, experiencing a high quality of life, all without waiting for some arbitrary point in the future.
Yeah, it's like, why postpone joy? Why not design a life that's fulfilling right now? This whole idea of lifestyle design, it's so empowering because it puts you in the driver's seat.
Right. You get to decide what success looks like for you. You get to define your own goals, your own values, your own metrics for fulfillment.
It's about creating a path that aligns with your unique aspirations rather than just blindly following the prescribed path, the one that society tells you you're supposed to follow.
Exactly. And it's not just about external factors like, money and possessions. It's about cultivating a sense of inner peace, purpose, and fulfillment. It's about feeling aligned with your true self.
I think for a lot of people, this might all sound a bit daunting. It can be overwhelming to question these deeply held beliefs about work and success and to actually envision a completely different way of life.
It's definitely a process, and it's not always easy. Ferris provides a framework and tools, but it's ultimately up to each individual to take those principles and apply them in a way that works for their own life.
It's about finding what works for you. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. And Ferris emphasizes that it's not about achieving some perfect state of balance or happiness. It's about continuous experimentation, adjustment, and refinement.
It's about embracing the journey with all its ups and downs and learning along the way.
And one of the things I find so inspiring about Ferris's approach is his relentless focus on action. He doesn't just encourage you to dream big, he actually provides concrete steps you can take to turn those dreams into reality.
He's all about testing, experimenting, and getting out of your comfort zone. It's not enough to just read the book. You have to actually apply the principles.
And he really gets into the practicalities, offering advice on everything from automating your business to negotiating with your boss to packing your bags for a mini retirement.
He gives you the tools you need to create real change in your life.
Now, before we wrap up this deep dive into the 4-Hour Workweek, I want to highlight one more really important aspect of the book, the importance of community and connection.
Oh, absolutely. Ferris emphasizes that even though this lifestyle can be incredibly liberating, it's crucial to cultivate meaningful relationships and to connect with like-minded individuals.
He talks about the importance of having a support network of people who understand and encourage you on your journey, people who get it.
People who can relate to your experiences and challenges and who can celebrate your successes with you.
He also encourages giving back, using your newfound freedom and resources to make a positive impact on the world.
It's about finding a sense of purpose beyond just personal fulfillment. It's about connecting to something larger than yourself.
So it's not about escaping from the world. It's about engaging with the world in a more meaningful and intentional way. And as we conclude our deep dive into the 4-Hour Workweek, I want to leave you with this question. What one thing could you do today to take a step, even a small one, towards designing the life you truly desire?
It might be setting a clear boundary, identifying a task to outsource, or maybe just scheduling 15 minutes to brainstorm your dreamlines.
It doesn't have to be a huge leap. Just take that first step. And remember, the possibilities are truly limitless. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to all the resources and tools we discussed. And we'll catch you on our next deep dive.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. That way you won't miss any of our updates. Also, if you think this video could help others, please share it with them. Thanks for watching and for your support.